Shalom, shalom. We're just having a good time before we start. We're going to have a good time tonight, as we usually do. Always, always, always. In these times, we need to be talking about a few things. You know, as I talked about on Sabbath and even on the last Bible study, and actually it's been 2 weeks since, you can say, the line's been drawn in the sand. So if you haven't been able to tell, things have been accelerated big time in every area that could be imaginable. So knowing that, there's been past times that I'll always talk about the distractions that are out there. And I'm going to continue to talk about there's lots of distractions out there. Because of the fact, because there is a lot of distractions out there. And we need to be able to be on point, what they call, A game. Be right on top, right on the wall, be on the top. And because there's so much happening and being heightened in the spirit realm, that we need to be in tune to a lot of things. Because we do have an adversary out there who is seeking to devour whom he may, if he could. So on that note, we need to know a few things. We need to understand his methods to come against us. Because once you know his methods, you can stop. How do you know the methods? How are you going to find them out? There's really only one way, and we're going to keep it going again and again and again and again and again, and that's spending time in his word. Spending time in Torah, face-to-face with Abba, is going to be able to get you to the point where you're going to be able to hear, see, and do. And that's what we need to do. Point blank. Many years ago, the Lord had given me a vision, and I was talking to Pastor Shad on Sabbath, and he was talking about, he had a similar, situation where the Lord was giving a prophecy over him. And it's kind of funny, it was around the same amount of time. So I was sharing that with him as well. And I told him, I says, for the longest time, I was not allowed to talk about it. And he just laughed because it's the same with him, because it wasn't the time. Now is the time. So what I've seen and what he has showed me, and we're going to go to, I'm going to do one of the scriptures. I'm going to have you just pull it up because we're going to go visit it. And that's 1 Corinthians chapter 3. We're going to read the whole chapter once I get there, so that you can just be right there and ready for it. I just want to bring up some other things before I get there. The Lord had just given me kind of warnings to be aware of. One of them is that he was talking to me about consumables. Now, if you're in the retail business, you understand what a consumable is and what's not a consumable. Yet he was referring to that, and he was showing me. Now, the adversary goes around to find consumables. And when he said that, I understood what he meant. The adversary is looking for you, and myself. Yeah, we know that, so we can stand guard against that and be on our A game. So in these times, we need to be aware of the methods of the adversary that he wants to consume us with. And so knowing, because everybody has, what do they call it? Everybody knows their weaknesses. Everybody knows, maybe even know some other people's weaknesses that we don't go around and beat them up for. Yet there's an avenue for us to encourage one another. Yet knowing those areas, those are the ones he's going to hit hard on. Whether it's attitudes, whether it's just stuff watching on TV, internet, and he went through the whole gamut of stuff. The most important thing that he brought up was the phone, the internet, and all of that stuff. So I sat there and I'm like listening. And he says, when you go to places, look, what are people doing? They're either texting, they're on their thing, on the internet, they are consumed by the phone, or their iPads. I'm not consumed, I'm using it though. Or the computers, they're just so consumed with it that they're being distracted. And even if you go out to a store and you see people just standing there, they're talking to each other, yet they're sitting there on the phone while they're talking. Some people call it multitasking. That's not quite the same thing. What's missing there is the interaction between people. You know, when COVID came around, that was the biggest distraction, was that, you know, in the field I work at, that people were isolated. They were not able to get out. They were not able to see anybody. So when I finally got into people's houses to do my job, people were just... That's okay, because I knew. And what I did is I spent more time over there and let them talk and listen to them. You know, they had some real concerns, and at the end of the whole thing, they were always saying, thank you. Thank you. That's what I missed. And it's one of the things I noticed during that whole session that they had was human contact with people. Verbal, touch, you know. We come around, we hug one another. That means a big difference, you know. You go to, there was an orphanage that they did a test on. They hugged certain and interacted with certain children, and the others they didn't. And what they noticed was the ones who were interacted with thrived, and the ones who weren't didn't thrive. That's straight across the boards. It's not just an orphan. It's just humankind, period. We need to fellowship. There's bottom line. So in fellowship, you need to be cautious of who you're fellowshipping with and what you're fellowshipping with. So when I seen the phone, you know, like that, well, there's a lot of fellowshipping going on with the phone. I'm just saying. It's like, let's be aware of it. Let's be focused, because it can be a big distraction. You know, TV can be a big distraction. Well, I know I watch all these good things on TV. Yes. And now, here we come to the point of hearing. Are we supposed to be watching that? Or are we supposed to be watching this? Even though they're good. You know, I remember years ago I talked about there's the good things and there's the God things. There's the God things is what I want to focus on. Not the good things, because good things is not what He wants you to do. He wants you to do the God things. This is what I told you to do. Okay, do it. You know. So for all them years where I couldn't share that, the vision, the open vision He gave me, I couldn't share it. I tried sharing it one time. It was so dry. I mean, dry. I mean, like you were out in the desert, dry. And people were just like, what are you talking about? And nobody was even talking about any of the subjects at all. I was just like, it's not the time. And it wasn't until it was Kenneth Copeland, Billy Brim, and somebody else who were talking about it. And they started talking about the Shekinah glory. That's part of the vision that was given to me. And they started talking about it. Now, nobody's ever talked about it before. Now, they had a season of it when they talked about it. I don't hear too much about it again. You know? Yet, part of what he was sharing with me was, during that time frame, for that to show up, there had to be a consuming within the body. Now, the body meaning, and this is what he had showed me, was there's two things. There's the body, and it's written in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, it talks about. There's the body of Messiah, what they call the church, the believers, and then, because we're one in Messiah, that also means Israel. So, and then there's also the temple, meaning this. So, when we're talking about the body, what's being put in the body, we're talking about like this fellowship and the fellowship that's out there, and we're talking about our personal bodies too. Not only food and what we're ingesting, what we're watching, what we're hearing, and what we're saying as well. It's going to make a big difference in these times. Because if you ever notice when, what's the word I really want to use, is when all hell breaks loose in somebody's life, what's the first thing they do? They freak out. They lose control. They don't have no bearings of what to do. You know, I'm not saying for this body or for us, yet we need to be aware, if the enemy knows our weakest points, he's going to come after us like that. If he hits you hard in those areas, are you able to stand? I'm going to say, yes, you can, because the Word of God says you can. And that's what we're going to talk about. Because we're going to stand on the Word, because you can't stand on anything else. So, let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 3. Because I'm telling you, in these times here, we need to be fine-tuned in our hearing, in our seeing, and in our understanding. Now, I read it was a comment on an article, and somebody had wrote, and it wasn't about Israel. And they wrote, at the end, it says, there's a lot of deception going on these days. We need to hone our discernment in so we'll be able to do what we need to do in these times. Be blessed. I was like, that's so true. That's so true. Hone in on our discernment. Yeah. And I'm not saying, well, I got the spirit of discernment, and I'm going to... No. We need to be able to see. Remember Dad used to talk about holding a book, and he would know. He would have that knowing, this is not right. Or, oh, this is a good book. That discernment. Or we can walk in a situation and we know, I need to be not here. Or before that, I don't need to be approaching to go in there. I need to turn. I need to go down this road. I need to go down that road. I need to go here. I need to do that. I was like, oh, well, I want to go do this. Well, I'm hearing him tell me to go do that. So what should I do? I'll go do what he said. Mm-hmm. Hear, obey, because these are the times when we need to be able to hear quickly, very quickly. Because if you're not going to hear quickly, you're not going to be able to respond quickly. Now, when you talk about distractions, I remember when it was one of the girls was preaching when they had said discernment, and I went in the back there, not discernment, distraction. I went back to start making all kind of noise, and everybody's like, yeah. The majority kind of went right back and got in place and was focused. Like Flynn, there's incidences we're going to come upon where they call them the suddenlies, and things just happen. I was moving. Well, we need to be sensitive to what he's doing. In here on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, even on Sabbath, and even when we come here like on a Sunday, when we're down in here doing something, we need to be aware of not only what's going on in here, what's going on out there. When we go to the stores, or we go to a restaurant, or we go to somebody's house, to be on that discernment. If you go into somebody's house, most people are able to discern when there's strife in the house because it's very thick. Well, are you able to discern the slightest of somebody is like in serious pain, not physical pain, heartbroken pain, where they need love and compassion from the Lord? Are we able to sense that? We have opportunities always before us for that. We're going to have more opportunities. Because there's going to, like I said, there's lots of distractions. I could name them all off, all the distractions that are coming out there, what they look like. I'd rather not do that. You know why? Because you'll be looking for the distractions. You say, oh, he's right, he's right. I'd rather you look at the Word and focus on the Word. That would be better to do than to focus on the distraction, because what's distraction happens when you get focused on the distraction? You get corralled and pulled away from the Word. And when you're corralled and pulled away, what happens? The first thing that goes is the Word. You're spending your time, you're reading, you're studying. Your studying is not, well, I read 14 chapters and this and that and this. That's great. When you read it, what did you get out of it? What impacted you? What made you go, oh, I need to change? Oh, I didn't see that before. Now I see it now. What was the revelation that was shown that made a difference in you? Like David, he read the Word. He knew the Word. And when the Word came to him, it cut him. It cut him. And that's why he was a man after God's own heart. Because when he heard, it cut him right You know, I always remember the prophet coming to him. You know, I read that. I just go, ooh. To hear that, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. Yet I sit there and I go, what would it be like if I was there and I was David? Not that I want to be in that situation. What was he feeling at that point in time where he knew he did wrong? What was it that made the difference that he repented and changed? Because he did that more than once. He continually did that. Those are the things when I read David that make me really motivated. I see it. This is what happened. He was cut inside, and he seen that he was a dead man, and he was no longer living, and his lineage was gone. Yet he knew he had a promise. Same with us. We have a promise, and he's going to keep his end of the promise. We have to keep our end. So if we go to chapter 3, we're going to start at verse 1. And I'm going to read from the TLV, the Living Version. And I, brothers and sisters, could not speak to you as spirit-filled, yet as worldly. As infants in Messiah, I gave you milk, not solid food, for you were not ready yet. Indeed, even now you are not ready yet. Now he's talking about, because at this point in time, they should have been eating the meat of the word. And he says, I still got to bottle feed you. You know, he's encouraging them. Look, let's go. Let's grow up. Let's grow up. Let's grow up. You know, these are times we're going to see a lot of rapid growth in people's life. And it's just going to, and you're going to be there, and you're going to be like wowed by it. I don't want to say astounded by it. You're just going to be, wow, look at this person. They just caught the word, and they're moving on. Things are changing in their lives. Yeah. So he's basically saying you're still in the milk instead of the word. You know, I gave you milk, not solid food, for you're not ready. Indeed, even now you're not ready, for you are still worldly. Worldly. For since there is jealousy, strife among you, those are two deadly ones right there. Aren't you worldly and walking in a human way? For when one says, I follow Saul, I follow Apollos, are you not mere humans? What then is Apollos, and what is that Saul? Servants through whom you came to trust, and to each as the Lord gave. I planted, Apollos watered, yet God gave the increase. So neither one who plants nor the one who waters is anything, yet only God who makes things grow. Now he who plants and he who waters work as one. Echad, there's unity. That's a key right there. He who plants and he who waters work as one. Yet each will receive his own reward according to his own labor. For we are God's co-workers, you are God's field, God's building. Field and building. According to the grace of God which was given to me, like a skilled master builder, I laid a foundation, and another builds on it. Yet let each other consider carefully how he builds on it. For no one can lay any other foundation than what is already laid, which is Yeshua the Messiah. Now if anyone builds on the foundation with gold, silver, precious stone, wood, hay, straw, each one's work will become clear. Understand that. Everyone's work will become clear. You're either going to be building on the foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, or straw. Each one's work will become clear, for the day will show, because it is to be revealed by fire. And the fire itself will test each one's work. What sort is it? If anyone's work built on the foundation survives, he will receive a reward. If anyone's work is burned up, he will suffer loss. He himself will be saved, yet as through fire. Do you know that you are God's temple, and that the Ruach Elohim dwells among you. If anyone destroys God's temple, God will destroy him, for God's temple is holy, and you are that temple. Let no one deceive himself. If anyone thinks he is wise in this age, let him become a fool, so he may become wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness. I like the way they wrote that. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness in the sight of God. For it is written, He catches the clever in their craftiness. And again, the Lord knows the thoughts of the wise, that they are useful. So let no one boast about men, for all things are yours, whether Paul, Apollos, or Kephas, or world or life or death, or things present or things to come. All are yours, and you are Messiah's, and Messiah's is God's. Now, when I was talking about being the phone and all the distractions of that, you're going to get into the worldliness wisdom. Now, I'm not saying that I'm studying the Word using my phone or my tablet. What I'm saying is usually when we're using those, we're using them for other things. So let's watch how we use them. And let's be honest with one another. Let's help one another out when we say, 4 hours on on the internet there, for our own good, because we need to encourage one another. It's like if we're spending, and the biggest thing is social media. I did one thing I signed up for. I signed up, set it up, and that was it. And it's still there. I haven't touched it since I set it up. And I don't have any intentions of going on there. It's just a waste of time. It really is. Then I found out there's one that's for business. Well, you know what happened with that? That became a social thing too, just like all the others. So you know what I did with that? Because it's a waste of time. It's supposed to be to make connections and stuff like that. It mostly is it's all just big social thing. It's like there's no, for me, it's gone. So it's like there's no connections for me. So it's like it's a big waste of my time and a big distraction. So it's like, okay, what else is a big waste of my time and a distraction? Definitely the TV. As far as like, I don't watch it, so if you watch fake news, that's going to be a big distraction, and it's going to be wasting your time. It's going to consume your time. It's going to eat you up, and you're going to have, your thinking's going to be skewed. I see it all the time. What's your source of news? I'm like, what do you mean? Well, I listen to this. This is the news. They tell everything. And I'm like, I say, well, on the charts of coming close to being there, they're like at the bottom. So I wouldn't even turn them on to even listen to anything on that one. Yet people will swear that they have the truth. I'm like, wait a minute. In your own town, they show stuff on there, and you're seeing it different. Hello. It's like you see it all the time. It's like even, this is the big thing about what's going on with the whole conflict in the Middle East. You're seeing people in the media shift towards the Palestinians, shoring them up and say, now the latest is Palestinians' lives matter. I say, every life matters. There's no individual life. They all matter. It's like they all matter. All lives matter. Yet you're going to put that in perspective like that. It's like, no, let's get to the point. What they're doing is trying to distract you from what's really going on, the truth. And that's what we're always after, is the truth. And the only one way you're going to find the truth is by staying in the Word. So, with all these distractions going on, and it's like, well, you keep talking about distraction, because I want everybody to be aware. That's the admonishment, to be aware of the distractions out there. Know they're out there. Be discerning. Hone in on your discernment so you'll be able to discern what is good, what is evil, what is God, opposed to what is good, because we need to be at that point where we're able to, Because there's things happening out there that people they're just totally clueless of what's going on. Everybody knows that the border's wide open. That's a given. Everybody knows that. So what they don't know is, in Mexico, there's a training ground that's been there for many, many, many years. Training ground for Hamas. They've been coming over the border for years. It's not they're just coming over the border now. They've been coming over the border. Yet it's a concern now because back then they were only coming over in small numbers. Now they're coming over in larger numbers. So the camp is training them how to do things like what we've seen. So where are they? Now there's like 4 places that they're keyed on, and one's in New England, and that's Hartford. And you would figure it'd be New York. Yeah, is it in there? Absolutely. I mean, that's an easy one. So it's like, it's out there, yet when stuff starts happening, what are you going to do? You should see the comments people put down. I'm going to unload my weapons. I'm going to grab my gun closet and wheel it out there with all hundreds of them, and I'm going to sit there. Obviously, they don't have discernment. It's like, what does Abba say? Is that what to do? You remember when the enemies of Israel were plotting against them, and Abba would say to the prophet and tell them everything they would be saying in secret, everything they did, and they would always find out. And they thought they had a spy in the camp that kept telling them what to do. And what was it? There was a higher wisdom that was around that they didn't know about. And that was one of the comments that was made in that comment that I read, was Israel said from after the Holocaust, never again. And that's been their motto since. And I'm like, it has. Never again. They know what they need to do in this way. Yeah, I believe once they tap into the Messiah, they're going to really excel in the things out there. Because you hear stories of people, of the amazing things that have happened. It's like a doctor who was out there and the things they did to him, yet he still went out and he still went and saved lives. Because he's seeing it. These people are waking up all over the place. They're seeing the truth and they're reacting in a positive way. They have a driver of a van going to pick people up. Well, he's got the sense to go all the way in there, in the midst of all them firing and doing all that stuff, and saved dozens of people. I mean, he crammed that thing in, and they were shooting at everything, and he made it out. Now, they call him a hero. And he says, I'm not a hero, I'm just doing what I know is to be right. He says, I could not live with myself not doing that. Yet that's the spirit about there. It's like, I know to do that. And that's why they've been so prosperous in their actions, because of that. All the wars that they've had, even in the Golan, the war up there, they just knew God intervened. He intervened. You hear him say, Hashem, he intervened. Absolutely, because you can't do those things without intervention like that. Going through all of those tanks, with the little group that they had and the massive number of, if you read your scriptures, what's going to happen there's going to be a time where all nations are going to go against Israel. And who's going to be the defender of her? And he said, he will. Because Israel's the apple of my eye, and I will guard and protect them. And they will be victorious, because I will deliver them. Now we need to follow that, because the same applies here. For this time in this season, we need to be in that spot. I was just amazed at some of the stories that just came out of there. The girls had shared some of them on Saturday and on a Bible study and stuff like that. And we need to get the heartbeat of what's going on out there. Not get caught up in a lot of the stuff. And yes, you need to get some stuff in your senses. Yet what you need to get in your senses is, okay, what do I need to do? What am I called to do in this season for them? Same we say for here. What am I called to do for here? What am I called to do for this neighborhood, this city, this state, this country? What am I called to do? What am I? Everybody has a gift and calling, and these are the times to really hone in on the discernment of those as well, because in doing that, you'll be able to see things. I remember Dad telling me when he first came here, he would drive up and down the streets, and the Lord would just move on his heart, and he would just weep and wail for the city. He was getting it in his senses when he did that. And he had a heart for the city. The compassion he had for the city was amazing. Because I watched the transition from where he just knew that we were going to go from the suburbs to a city. Now, most people are going from the city to the suburbs. We went the opposite direction because he was shown that this place needs us. Needs not only us, it needs him more than us. Yet we are the avenue, the venue for him to be shown into this area. And those as well out there, you have your own neighborhoods and cities and towns as well, where you're an influence and a voice for these times. And tapping into that voice that needs to be said for these times is by staying in the Word. Because in due season, that Word will come. And will you be the one to speak it? And I had to go and, when I had those visions, because, and I'll share some of them as we go on, the visions were very judgmental. And when I say judgmental, there's judgment in the vision. So my friend, who was my mentor at the time, said, I want you to share that to these people. And I said, sure, I'll share it. I'm like, I'm shaking in my boots because I'm really, I'm at the point, it's like, I have a sense that this is happening as I'm speaking. So I go and share that, and the whole thing is, well, we know you're young, and we know you hear from the Lord, but. Now, I didn't sit there and go, why you? No, I'm just like, wait a minute. I'm just sharing what the Lord shared with me because I was asked to. I was like, that's all. I'm just doing what I'm, because at that time, one of the words was the watchman on the wall. So, okay, so here's my opportunity. I was sharing what the watchman saw in the spirit realm, and I shared it. They didn't receive it. Now, I didn't go over there and say, I'm here, I have a word of the Lord for you. It's like, no, it wasn't like that. Every time that happens, it's never like that for me. It's always I'm sharing what the Lord gave me, and people get convicted. So that's what happened over there. And so after that fact, I was just like, I didn't say anything after that. And it wasn't until like maybe, I don't know how many years later, I found out there were like 5 other people who had the same words, same scenario, and everything else that went and said the same thing. So I was like, I didn't need that confirmation because I knew. Yet that was nice to know because I'm sure that they found out as well. So that's comforted for them that I heard and I did what I was supposed to do. Yeah. So now with those individuals with the same thing, it's just like, so I have not seen any of them. Now, have they been told to be quiet for this many years as well? I'm not for sure. I know I was told. So part of that whole thing that really got them was it was judgment coming on the land. And it was saying, get the house in order, clean your house. And basically what we read here is he's talking about the temple. Now the temple meaning our bodies and the gathering of the saints. Judgment's coming, and it always comes to the house first. So the house gets cleaned first before, because how are you gonna, if you're not. It's like, I remember going up, it was up in, I think it was up at Hampton one time, many, many years ago. And I walked down, because I don't like going up the strip and stuff like that. So I walked up the strip there, and there's this person handing out tracts. And, saying, repent, repent. The infamous, repent or you're going to hell. And I was like, I didn't know anything back then. And I just thought, well, you got a lot of oomph. because you're in the midst of a lot of people out here that just, they're not thinking like you. And I said, you got some guts there, buddy. Yeah, then I look at it from this end, I'm like, that was pretty bold. You know, you better know that you were told to do that. You know, Smith Wiggle was throwing a dead body against the wall. You better know that you heard, you know, and then do it again. The first time it didn't, nothing happened. And then boom, then he comes, the body comes back into life. You better know you heard before you do something like that. Yeah. Oh, I got faith. I have faith. It's like, no, you better hear. That's where faith comes from. Hearing. Hearing the right words. So it's like, I remember going to a funeral, and then I had somebody who was sitting there and like, I got enough faith. We can go in there and we can just raise him. And I'm like, hold on. I said, hold on, hold on. I says, what's the Lord telling you? What's the sense? What is the sense? And there was no sense to go do that. You know, so it's like, okay, we're not going to go do that because we're in not position to do that. So I was like, let's be obedient to what he's telling us to do. Least you be embarrassed, you know, because what would happen? You know? So these things are going to happen. We're going to see the dead raised because the scripture says so. We're going to be. Yet, do you want to be a spectator or do you want to be a participant? No. It's all up to every individual. We're going to have a choice. We all have choices, and we need to make the right choices. And that's why we need to spend that time with the Word, spend the time with Him. You know? And I'm telling, because, you know, like Dad used to always talk about the counterfeit money. Remember how he used to say the story? How do they tell the counterfeit bill? By spending time with the real deal. So you don't need to focus on the counterfeit. We don't need to focus on the distractions. What we need to do is focus on the one who reveals the distractions, what to do in those times of distractions. Because they're going to go by, you know, and they're not going to harm us. You know, the 3 Hebrew children thrown in the fire. Not a smell of smoke. And they came out. Those who tossed them in died because of the heat was so intense. Yet they saw 4 in there, and only 3 were there. One has appeared as the Son of Man. I was like, well, I've been around fire. I never had an opportunity when it didn't smell like smoke. It's like, there will be that opportunity. Will you be ready for it? You know, Sherry shares the story about, you know, being at the right place at the right time, of the person, you know, overdosing. You know, everybody's got a story of being somewhere at the right time, doing the right thing with the right people, and things happen. You know, it's like, if we didn't hear that, and I believe it was her was saying because she was going to go deliver mail somewhere, and she was told to go over here to deliver it, to put it in that post office box. Little things like that. It's like, go down here. No, I need to go down there and go around. I did that, so I go around. Well, I didn't realize what was happening down there. So I was like, that was a good thing. Why? Because that was not a good thing that was happening down there. And I could have been at that point when that happened. You know, over here, when they had the shooting. You know, you could go right into it and not even think anything about it. Or you could be listening and then, do I need to do anything? Do I need to be in position, or do I need to just, what do I need to do? Okay. Because there is a worldly wisdom and then there's a godly wisdom. I mean, you choose. I'm going to choose the godly wisdom because that one never fails. So, you know, in these times, it's like, let's sure up. Let's get, like Mom say, strap your boots and let's get going. And it's like, you know, that picture of the bride with her gown on and with the combat boots on, strapping them up and getting ready to go. This is the time. You know, this is the time. When she had brought that picture out, that said it all. You know, these days today, people say these are the end times. Is it? Not for sure. Yet I'm going to live like it is. You want to know why? Because if it is, I'm going to get the results that I'm walking out. If I don't prepare, I'd be like the 5 unwise virgins who, oh, excuse me, I need some oil for my lamp. Oh, don't shut the door. And they took off. They're gone. Obviously, they didn't hear. I don't want to hear that. You know what I want to hear? I want to hear, well done. Well done. It's like, these are the times. You see it out there. In the workplace, I see it all the time because of the clients that I work with. There are people hurting. And they are hurting, and they don't know what to do. And it's amazing that there's nobody out there. I shouldn't say nobody out there. It just seems that there's not too many people going out and touching people's lives. And when I go out there, that's what I expect every time I go in somebody's house. I'm there to make a difference. I had a gentleman said to me, he says, "You're different. I've never met anybody like you." I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, you're really nice. You treat people really nice." I said, "I'm like that with everybody." I says, "It doesn't matter who you are, I treat you like that." He goes, all my life, because he had some rough dealings. And he says, "I'm done with that. Now it's like, I don't want that no more. I want to hang around with people like you." And I'm like, hold on. He's a nice guy. He's just looking for the right people to hang out with, to do the right things, because he's got a heart for people too. Yeah. So for him, because he said, I don't see too many people like that. He says, I deal with a lot of people, and I don't see too many people like that. Why? I know people at work, it's just like, try to smile, please. It's not going to hurt. It's like you're sitting there and you're at the desk where people come in, and you're like, I said, wrong place, turn around and go up. No, put a smile on your face. Welcome them, Wherever we go, we put a smile on our face. Doesn't hurt. My dad said it's more muscles involved in frowning than there is smiling. So it's like, if we're working that hard to frown, we're working it the wrong way. So if we can put that smile on the face and make a difference, because like what I shared earlier with the touch and the interaction with people, you would be amazed how many people out there are looking for that. And that's where you definitely need discernment. You definitely need discernment, because there are people out there that are not good. Yeah, like I said, you stay in the Word, you'll get that discernment running. I mean, you need to hone in that discernment. So it's like, yes, yes, yes. I'll say, oh. You're right on your A game. You're right on it. It's like every little thing. You'll be right there. And it'll be like a word in due season. Somebody say, oh, here's a word for you. And like I said, thus says the Lord. No, I have a word for you because it's true. Sitting there and a person is like so down on themselves because of it's an older person, their mother never was on welfare, never did this, never did that. And great, that's a good thing. Yet, she went on assistance, and she's all down and out about it because her mother would be totally disappointed in her. Now her mother, this lady's 80 years old. Now her mother's been... So I told her, I says, now, because I told her about the program, and I said, you've been paying your electric bill, haven't you? She said, on time for almost 40 years. I said, so you know something? Your electric bill is called a conservation charge. I says, that is what pays for this. There is nothing free. She says, because the whole thing getting free, she did not like the idea. And she said, what do you mean? And I explained, it's not free. Nothing's free. Somebody paid for it. I said, you paid for it. So you can have it. Really? Go look at the thing. And it was there. She's like, oh my. Really? And smile on her face. And then she was all happy about it. I mean, I was impressed with her because she was out there. She was 80-something years old, and she shoveled her own driveway. Stories like that all the time. You know, 85-year-old gentleman. He doesn't get going until 11 o'clock in the morning. He told me, he says, you can come over, we're going to do things. I said, I can talk to you till 11 o'clock, that's it. After that, I got to get to work. Okay. So I go over there, and I see wood all in his backyard, stacked up this high, 2 rows. I was like, wow, he had somebody who could do a lot of work for him. So I go over there, I'm talking with him, and then he goes, he's just sitting there, and he's drinking his coffee. And then 11 o'clock, boom, jumps up, runs in the bathroom. I mean, he runs in the bathroom. I'm like, he gets up, does his things. He's all dressed. He's running out the door. I'm like, excuse me, excuse me. So he says, come with me. So I'm following him. He's going to get wood from the shed that's, you know, cut up in logs. He's getting his tractor to pull it out so he can cut it, chop it by hand. Yes, that's just what I said. Because I said, you cut all of that by hand? He goes, yes. He says, I got about 2 years out here, and I'm going to do about maybe 2 to 3 more years, and then I'm done with it. And I'm like, whoa. I was like, really? So he does, he tries to get 2 years worth in a year. I was like, you amaze me. You absolutely amaze me. Yeah, I mean, he was very relaxed, and then 11 o'clock, he was up, he was gone, he was out there going to go to work. I was amazed, and I told him, you amaze me. You know, I had to go back over there. His wife passed away, and I had to go back over there. So now it's like, okay, I need to be sensitive to what you want me to say, because you know, it's like, I've never been in a situation like this. So I went there, and he did very well. And he just started crying. And then I said, don't do that. I said, for me, don't do that. You do it, that's great. And then I says, you know, you need to do that once in a while. He says, I know, and I do. He says, and this happened to be the time I did it. And he says, I miss her. I'm like, I'm sure. You know, she was part of your life for many years. And then he sits there and he tells me his whole story of how he took a mortgage on his house because she was going through chemo, and how much he owes them. And I'm just like, because they didn't have, they said he made too much money, or he didn't make enough money, so he had no medical to do. I was like, you're kidding me. And I was like, wow. I mean, and that really, so, and he's sitting there and he goes, you know, at this point in my life, I'm not concerned about it. You know, what are they going to do? Come take my house? I says, put it in your son's name. He goes, why? I said, put it in there. You don't want to take it from 5 years. So his eyes popped open. He says, really? I said, just do it. And then when I was talking to him, then the Lord told me, I had that sense, get him a Market Basket gift card. And I'm like, I've never done this before. And I was like, so I'm like, I said, I got to go somewhere. I'm going to come right back, though. He said, okay. So I went, and I got it, the amount that he told me to. And I said, here. I said, it's not a lot, you know, compared to what he would actually need. Yeah, I mean, it would help him out. And I just gave what I was told to. I mean, he just went, and he was speechless. He says, thank you. That's going to help. I'm like, all right. A little thing like that, being sensitive to hear that. Now, I could have just said, well, slap him on the back, have a good day, see you later, gone. And I was like, whew, good thing I didn't get in that point where he started sharing about his wife. I'd be like, whoa. No. The man was hurting. And I knew that before I even got there. So I knew that he had something for me to do. Simple thing like that. Simple thing like that just changed his whole demeanor. You know, every house I go into, I'm looking for those opportunities. Everywhere we go, you know. Like I said, everybody has a story to share about being at the right place at the right time, doing the right thing with the right people. And we need to do more of that. Wherever we're at, there's opportunities always around us. If you're in the Word's coming forth. You'll be able to ride through anything because the Word says so. You know? He'll be your rear guard. You don't need to be looking behind you because usually that's what everybody's doing. Like if you don't have to look behind you, you can keep focused on the front. When they took the water up to their mouths, they were just looking in front. You know, they were doing what they needed to do, yet they were discerning what was going on in front of them, instead of just sticking your face in the water and just drinking it. So, during these times, let's do it. It's like, let's encourage one another. What's your word time? And if somebody says, well, I kind of haven't been really, don't beat them. Just encourage them. Well, I know you can do better tomorrow. Well, just grab a couple chapters tonight and see what the Lord shows you. Because these are the times we need to build one another up. You know, it's like, well, this one looked at me kind of funny. I'm not even going to talk to them. It happens. I tell you, I see it all the time in the workplace. So it is. Or, well, they look at me the wrong way, or they said this. And I'm there, I'm like, no, they didn't. They didn't say that. Oh, yes, they did. No, they did not. You misunderstood. You know, we had a meeting, and that was the thing. The individual was expressing his concerns about some things, and it seemed like everyone, I understood exactly what he was saying. And everybody else said, whoa, he got feisty, he was really mad. I said, no, if you listened to his heart, you would have understood what he was saying. You know, and he apologized to anybody. He says, I understand how you do things. This is the way I'm looking at it, and forgive me if it comes across wrong. He kept saying it. Everybody took it, oh, he was all mad. No, he was not. How could he be mad? How did you get that? And I tried telling everybody, no, he wasn't mad. I talked with him. He wasn't mad. I knew he wasn't. Now, I could have did what everybody else did and said, oh, he was mad. Now, we have a new employee that started. And the first thing I told him, I said, look, it's a clean slate. It's a clean slate. I says, everybody here, you're going to learn about them. You're going to learn what you can and cannot do with them as far as work-wise. You know, we're a team. We won't always agree on everything, yet that's what we're going to do. You got to look at it that way. It's all a clean slate. Don't go by what anybody else says. Well, who do I need to know about? I'm like, sit down, like Dad. When that happened, the first thing I thought about was, Dad, sit down, stay a while. Get to learn some things. I was like, oh, we have a firecracker here. That's all right. Got to learn some things, and we're going to get you in the right direction and keep you going. So, discernment is a big thing. So let's hone in on our discernment. Amen. Shalom, shalom, everyone. I know you got something, and let's seriously think about honing in on the discernment. For these times, you're going to need discernment. And your discernment's only going to come from one place. It's spending time with Him and His Word. Torah, that's the foundation. Shalom.